Hello YouTube, it's FoxZeroG here talking to you about Shadowlands' most recent blue post for alt leveling, Torghast Tower, Covenants, PvP vendor, and sockets. If you find this information helpful, hit the like button as it does help with the algorithm and gets me more noticed. If you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button as I know a lot of you are. It does help me out, thank you. Alright, let's dive into it. Alt leveling. As we first announced at BlizzCon last year, while everyone's first trip through the Shadowlands was driven by a linear narrative campaign that grants access to endgame features such as Covenants, World Quest, and much more, we offer players who level alts as much more flexible experience. We have added a version of that experience in the beta for the past few weeks, as alts select their Covenant immediately upon arriving at Orbis, and they tackle the four zones in any order they choose. I was able to experience this as I was given beta access through one of the content creators giving away or during their giveaways on Twitter. Thank you, SnowMixie. However, we received a couple points on the feedback that led us to refine the approach. First, a number of testers felt like they weren't necessarily ready to pick a Covenant right away on new class, as they wished to replay their narrative arc that let them test drive each of the abilities along the way. Second, even the players who were familiar with the overall story by that point felt confusing or wrong to play through those portions of some campaign zones. I did like how they did change this, as even if you're a new player coming in, you can even test the waters by testing out all of the four Covenants. You can test their abilities as well, and you don't have to pick them right away. You can select the quests and go back through all the four process of the zones. Next, we have the Torghast progression. A number of players in the past couple of months of the beta have raised concerns about what seems like an excessive lengthy introduction quest to the Torghast, which at their worst could feel like 5 or 6 consecutive tutorials that had been completed before players could access the real feature. In the upcoming build, likely next week, we are restructuring the way that Torghast is unlocked, such that players can gain full access to the main wings of the towers after completing a single introductory run that also grants access to the Rune Carver. The remaining quest to locate, rescue Jaina and Thrall will be incorporated into a larger quest line that expands the 6 main Torghast cell blocks, rewards legendary crafting materials, and eventually unlocks the twisted corridors selected at its conclusion. Speaking of the twisted corridors, I was finally tuning. Twisted corridors should come into its own, as it's the challenging mode wing of Torghast, offering 18 floors run at a high level of difficulty than the rest of Torghast with cosmetic reward. This is great, so it doesn't feel like you're just dragging on. It's not excessively lengthy. If you do the challenge mode, it's only for cosmetic rewards, so transmogs or different colored abilities, I guess. I don't know what they want to consider cosmetic rewards. Next, we go on to Covenants. Covenants are the centerpiece of Shadowlands and have been subject to passionate discourse across the community over the past several weeks, which has been mirrored by discussion and debate within our team. From the system's first concept, selecting the Covenants was crafted to be a weighty decision, a shape of characters' ability, cosmetic rewards, and access to endgame story arcs, sanctum systems. A weighted decision almost by defining comes to the same amount of stress, whether anxiety about making the wrong choice or just evaluating various pros and cons and wishing they were there in a way to just get the best of all worlds. It goes into a deep explanation of this, meaning that if you do read it, they're pretty much saying that we understand that you don't want to make the wrong decision, but at the same time, it is what it is. You might have to switch it up if you want to be like PvP or PvE, since the soulbinds and covenants and everything like that is weighted to one or another, and it's not just an RP sense or a roleplay sense, because a Kyrian Paladin is different than the Ventherian Paladin, and they don't want it to be based on the, like, whether you're Kyrian or a Ventherian rather than just a Paladin, because you might not get selected into groups. They also do state that we understand your concern about pulling the ripcord, but at the same time, we do not want to pull the ripcord because we've gone too far, in a sense, I guess. Next up we do have is PvP itemization. We have been following the constructive feedback about the range of the gear available on our PvP vendors, and we agree with the underlying concern. While WoW is an intricate ecosystem of different content systems, we feel that the strongest characters should be the ones who participate and excel in a wide range of activities. Each individual progression path should offer the majority of the tools required for success in that path. PvP vendors currently fall short of that goal. We are considering a few different solutions, such as reworking the stat coverages of the vendor gear and or providing PvP specific bonuses throughout those items. As soon as we settle on the direction, we'll share our plan for feedback and get the changes for the beta testing. They mentioned two ways here, so PvP specific bonuses. So if you have 2 pieces, 4 pieces, 6 pieces, I believe, or they're just going to have the whole range of stats. Another way that they can do this is by going with an item upgrade for PvP gear. So if the current eye level is 158 for that piece, when you go into PvP, it will rank it up to 175. And this way, even though you are increasing the current gear from 153 all the way up to 190, that 190 piece could hold a threshold of 240 or something like that. While we eliminated Warforging and Typeforging in Shadowlands with the goal of increasing clarity and players' agencies over rewards, the question of how to handle sockets was not quite as clear cut. A certain critical mass of sockets across all players' gear is essential to support jewel crafters as a player's profession. And in recent expansions, the chance of any in-game item to upgrade to a socketed version give players and in recent expansions, the chance of gaining any end-game item to upgrade to a socket version gave players of all playstyles the opportunity to interact with the jewel crafting trade skill. At the same time, sockets were unquestionably very bit impactful as Warforging. Trying to balance these considerations and approach we've settled on for Shadowlands is to keep sockets as a random item property, but to allow players to add sockets to their items via consumables sold by this person in the Maw, similar to the gorged eyes in the current expansion BFA with Visions of Ny'alotha. This way, all players can take advantage of gems, and seeing a socket item drop offers a short-term efficiency advantage, but in the long run, competitive players can still make steady progress progress towards best in slot gear setup without relying on additional layers of randomness. Finally, in order to limit the impact of gems and the power gap between players with full socketed and those without in Shadowlands, only helms, rings, necks, bracers, and belts can have a socket randomly generated or added. These changes should be active in next week's beta. This is great because it is hard to, when you do have a best in slot item, or you're just waiting on that extra 5 item level, you can add it in a socket until you get it, and it's pretty much like having that extra 5 item level with the gem. That is it for this week's video. If you do like this information, like I said, leave a like, hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed already, as well as leave a comment if you like the changes right now. If you have any thoughts of your own for the PvP itemization, the sockets, the Torghast, as well as Covenants. I know everyone just wants to do pull the ripcord, as well as there's alt leveling to mention. I do like how they changed up the alt leveling. It's very nice. Alright, this is Fox G. We're out.